Hello, this is Dr. Vaishali and I am reading from The Substance of Homeopathy, book written by Dr. Rajan Sankaran, Chapter 23, What We Learn from Miasm. In the classification of disease state, we have tried to see pattern that may be found in a vast population. The study of disease is in a way a study of mankind. We understand what it means to be a mortal. Human civilization has its own advantages and there is no denying that we have come a long way from the caveman. It is a nature of the man, means it opposed to an ape. To understand, harness the power of nature of the natural element. However, by modifying the environment to extent that are entirely unnatural, man has created a certain situation for himself. The problem of war, industrializations, political conflict, etc., are created by the human. To survive in this situation, man developed a state of being appropriate for that time, adopting posture best suited to that situation. So when the situation changed, this state of being, this posture were no longer needed and were therefore usually dropped. It is when this state continued despite the change in the situation that things go wrong, then man is under the delusion. He is no longer aware of the reality. In order to diminish this delusion, which is the stays at the very center, the body accepts infection which is based live out the delusion. Once this occurs, man is able to accept himself and is accepted by the society as well. Means his behavior is not so abnormal considering this infection. Thus, infection is subsequent to an internal created susceptibility. This is what the master have said in different way. Thus, we find the Stuart Close talking of satisfying the susceptibility, while Kant says the bacteria are the result and not the cause of the disease. The man who is internally destructive and violent will be the one of the acquired syphilis, a violent destructive disease, and this internal state are classified by us as a miasm. As mentioned earlier, state develop in response to a situation. The frequency of any disease can be directly related to a situation calling for it. The reason for cancer is the attitude of cancer, just as the reason for tuberculosis is the attitude of a condition. The Harijan, means a low caste, in the people was treated like a leper. He was not allowed to use the same water source, enter the house of the high caste persons, etc. This being his situation, it is not surprising that this were the people most likely to develop the leprosy. The feeling in the mind manifests in the body. Once this is clear, we cannot help wondering what happened when the infection invited by the body is removed by the treatment without the basic feeling being altered in any manner. This is the case with the antibiotic, and I believe the increased incidence of new pathologies and infection is just as an expression of the body's attempt to substitute to the older infection with another which fill in the void. The substitute may be the less appropriate to the state, and this result in a worsening of the patient's general condition. Something we recognize as a suppression. While the pernicious result of one-sided treatment are sometimes immediately evident, the major effects are seen on the longer time of the scale. In the West today, we find there is a high incidence of the autoimmune disease, cancer, and incurable disease, etc. What is the alarming is that trend shows that this condition, formerly the domain of the old age, are now showing up in the younger people with a great frequency. I would say that this was the expected. What other outcome could result when we remove the syphilis infection without removing the syphilis in the man's mind? The destructive mind invites the destruction, whether in the form of syphilis or AIDS. The latter is to me nothing but the syphilis in another gas. In India, these late effects are not yet seen in any great measure. However, many of our patients present with a complaint very similar to older well-known infections, so much so that we occasionally confuse the two. But whereas the earlier group of the case would show an acute self-limiting course with a reasonable definite prognosis, means good or bad. The current cases seems to have a uniformly unhappy prognosis with a long-lasting debility. The last statement is based on my experience, especially with the young children and their complaint. Example, the measles and etc. The purpose of stressing so much on this morbid matter is to create awareness. For the aware is to be healthy. Now we can consider the possible solution to this problem, as the disease is the result of unnatural posture. Awareness of these and consequent alteration in our thinking would result in a health. Man must obey his natural instinct when they do not go against his community. A simple changes in diet and habit will go on a long way towards the healing. Not only because of the physical benefit, but also due to the changed mental outlook that precedes it. It is most disheartening to watch youngster and adult alike watching loud, noisy and senseless television program, lying on their back, eating junk food all along. Nothing could be more unnatural, more calculated to the disturbed health. It would be healthy to eat, sleep and rest as much as it is needed, neither too much or not less. The most potent weapon we possess to promote health is education. In order to educate others, we must be able to recognize what is already existing that is healthy around us and why it is so. This is not so easy to define, and I can only attempt to give general indication. What are the things that create awareness of our state of being? It would be over a movie or a job. There are movies which take you into the realm of fantasy, wanting you to be one of the character of that movie. There are other which touch you deeply and you can identify with that character. Instead of thinking, I am that, would like to be, you feel that is me. The latter type of the movies are the ones I feel best calculated to promote the health. There are jokes which excite laughter without really affecting you. Then there are others which make you feel much better after the laughter. I recall one such incident which seems to have just the sort of effect I am talking about. It was my father's patient who had been talking of suicide for days. The conversation was as follows. I am going to commit suicide. How do you propose to do it? My father said, by shooting myself. And my father said, do you have a gun? So he said, no. Then what is the use of talking about it? Get one and we will discuss it. The patient started laughing at his unexpected advice and subsequently improved. What this joke has to done to him was to create awareness that the really did not intended to die. He really did not intended to die. It is abstract things like these what we must look for and appreciate, hoping that someday we can define them more clearly and use them in a practical healing way.